Hey guys, what's up? My name's Alec Torelli. Welcome back to Ask Alec, where I take your questions and answer them in short videos. If you're new to this channel, welcome. My name's Alec Torelli. I've been a poker player for half my life, and I make a lot of content on YouTube helping you get better at poker. So hit that like and subscribe button because we put out a ton of new content here helping you take your game to that next level and be the crusher that you deserve to be. All right, this question comes from Joshua. He says, Alec, have you ever been depressed about losing in poker and going on a downswing? Did you ever wonder if poker was just a pipe dream? Getting to where you are now, were there moments that you wondered if this was the route you wanted to take in life? I've got this question in various forms from a lot of different people, and I realized I need to put out more content about the journey, about what it's actually like and some of the highs and lows and the roller coasters. So I put out a piece of content on this about 3-4 years ago now called 3 Steps to Turn Tragedy into Triumph. And you can get more access at the link below. But in this video, I wanted to talk about some of the times that I really struggled and some of the down moments where I was really questioning whether or not poker was the right move or whether or not I was confident. Or no, I wasn't questioning. I was questioning my confidence because I realized I was losing and I wondered if I was good enough. Could I make it? Can I do this? I felt all those things many, many times. I'm human, just like you. And when I lose at poker, I feel like shit. Like, I brush it off better now than I have in the past. I'm used to it, so I'm like a little bit desensitized to it, but it's like, it doesn't feel good to lose. And when you lose for extended periods, it feels even worse. And there's moments where I still question my ability sometimes when I'm losing. And I have to fight off those thoughts in my head because I have to stand firm in what I know is the truth, that I believe I'm good enough to win. But there's always those thoughts that come in, right? They're like you're kind of like an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other, and it's like you gotta choose who you're gonna listen to. Anyway, on my journey, I've had many times where I've really been down and questioning poker. The first time that comes to mind was a situation where I was in college. I had saved up a bankroll. It was huge at the time, and it was huge like relative where I was in my life. I was 18. I saved up like maybe $20K to play poker. This was in 2005, 2006, when poker was just booming and online poker was lucrative. It was amazing. And so I played, 1, 2, 2, 4, 3, 6, saved up some money, built a bankroll, and I punted it away. And that was like so devastating to lose that much money because it was like life-changing money at the time. And I felt like, just delusions of grandeur. Like, I'm just going to turn this, I turned 2 into 20. I'm going to turn 20 into 200. But I turned 20 back into 2 because I just punted it all away. And so I had to start over from scratch. That was really hard. I was playing like bigger sit and goes down to $10, $20 sit and goes. I don't remember all the numbers because it was so long ago. But I had this like moment where I was at college and I wasn't doing well in school because I was focused so much on poker. And now I just punted away everything I had built in poker. So now I'm sitting there like a schmuck being like, oh my gosh, like facing the reality of my situation. Because when I was in this high from poker, I was like neglecting school, but I was like, who cares? Like, I wasn't thinking about the fact that I was going to eventually have to tell my parents that I dropped out and all these things. I was just like so high from this crushing poker that like those things didn't matter. I was like, I'll figure it out later. But then when I lost poker, which gave me the self-confidence to be like pursuing this path, I lost everything. Now I have no poker. I had no school. I had just broken up with my girlfriend, which I was a wreck about. And like, this was a really shitty time for me. Like, this was really hard. I didn't really have that many friends in school because it was my first year there. I had moved to Dallas from Orange County. I didn't know anyone that went to the school I went to. And I didn't make that many friends because while everyone else was out partying, I was mainly just like in my dorm room grinding. And so like now I'm at this spot where like suddenly I like start to like look at the situation differently or value different things. And I want like, to detach from poker and like go hang out with other people and like maybe start focusing more on school. And like all those things are just at rock bottom. And so this was a time when I was like really preoccupied and I was really wondering like, I'm just not cut out for poker and I'm just going to quit. And so I said that, and maybe deep down I knew that I would come back. I think looking back on it now, I knew deep down I wasn't quitting, but I quit. I knew that I was probably going to come back to poker, but at the same time, I'm like, I need to just like step away from this and take a break because like I'm not here mentally. I'm not ready to play this game. Like I can't win right now. And I'm not saying I can't win right now because of luck, just I can't win right now because like I'm just not there. Like I just don't have it. I don't have what it takes to sit down and grind, especially moving down in stakes after busting my bankroll. So that was a really tough period for me because I felt this like loneliness and combined with the devastation of losing what I had saved and just like the feeling of despair of like just working a long time to build something up slowly over time, and then that just like punting it away. That was a really tough time for me. I did, start grinding it back. I started playing live poker, met some new people, changed it up, went from playing online to live, mixed it up, started playing small, grinded it back. Things went well, and I did eventually grind it back, right? But this was like a big downturn period for me. The second time that this happened comes to mind is, I don't know if many people know this, but in 2007, I moved to Melbourne, Australia, because I couldn't play poker legally in the US. And so while I was there, I got up one day at 4 a.m. and I wanted to play the F-Tops, which was the biggest tournament in online history at the time. So I got up super early. I played. 16 hours later, I won. I made $250,000 in a day. And this was, before this, I was playing like, I don't know, 5-10. So, I mean, I had a bankroll, but this was insane. And then I could now use that money to play 10-20, 25-50. So I jumped up in stakes, crushed it. I was crushing it on Party Poker at the time. I think I was making like 50 to 100K a month playing that game on Party Poker. I went on to be one of the biggest winners of the year in 2007 on Full Tilt, on High Stakes DB. I think I'm like 8th, and I made over $1 million in 2007. That was huge. Like, I'm 19 years old. I just made $1 million in a year playing poker. Like, I'm just on top of the world. No, there's nothing could stop me, right? So now I'm like, super like big ego about the fact that I had been winning. Try to keep my feet on the ground, but I was pretty confident in my poker game, right? 2008, people get better. Like, the game changes, the game evolves, and I just kind of stayed where I was. I mean, why would I change what wasn't broken? But I stopped learning. I really stopped challenging myself to get better. I sort of thought I knew everything. I was just like, what I'm doing is working. I'm just crushing. Why would I do anything different? And to some extent that makes sense, but you always have to be learning and improving and getting better. Otherwise the competition is going to move you by, especially in an immature market like poker was a decade ago. Like, there was so much more to learn. There still is more to learn, but there was just so much improvement that people could make in a game where people were playing very poorly in a decade ago. So the game passed me by, and for a year I went on a downswing, and I lost most of that money back. So now here I am at 20, and I moved down from playing 300, 600, no limit hold'em, with a buy-in of 60,000. Okay, the biggest games on Full Tilt, the nosebleed games. I was the guy just sitting at the empty tables, waiting for people to come, and just crushing. Down to playing 5-10 no limit on a stake. That was heart-wrenching. I actually, like, a lot sort of happened in between where I had to, like, really get myself right mentally. I've made some other videos about this, but, like, that was really tough. I had to, like, take a complete detox from poker. I had to, like, take a trip. I need to get out of here. I need to take a vacation and just get my head right so that I could come back and grind and put myself at a spot mentally where, like, this is what I'm going to undertake. And that was really tough for me because also there was so much ego involved with playing the nosebleed games, that everyone's seeing you play the biggest games and then suddenly you're not playing the biggest games. So I was like, people were like, what are you doing down here? You might have experienced this at a casino where you play the 2-5 and then you move down to the 1-3 and people are like, what are you doing here, right? But I had that in the public eye because I go from being one of the biggest winners online, journal, like, articles about it, and like, this is public information, and then now I'm playing like 5-10. That was really tough. It was tough to deal with, like, the loss of sense of self from being this high stakes crusher, and also just, even if I didn't have that external difficulty, it was also just difficult moving down and getting my head around the fact that, a buy-in was a big blind. One buy-in in my game was basically a big blind in my other game. It makes it really tough to play well in the small pots and value the money. So I really had to go back to getting sensitized to the money I was playing with, and that required me to take a lot of time off and really get focused. I mainly stuck to high stakes cash games, but I played heavily in tournaments around 2014 or 15. I was playing a lot of high stakes cash in Macau. Things were going really well, and I was like, you know what, let me play some of the high roller tournament circuit. So I played some of the 50Ks, the 100Ks, and tournaments have variance. Like, things didn't go well. Maybe I played bad, but, like, I just didn't win or cash in a series of tournaments. And I was like, wow, like, am I good at poker? And, like, it made me question that about myself, even just losing in tournaments when it's totally part of normal standard deviation to have these losing streaks in the tournaments I was playing. It wasn't like anything out of the ordinary, but the sheer magnitude of the tournaments and the amount of money at stake made it difficult to play some of the cash games because you're like, you're just stuck, and it was frustrating. And so I've had this throughout my life where I question it. And I wonder, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I going to make it? Like, this is what I want to do. That's just normal. I have that in business, too, where I'm like, put out content and it doesn't click, doesn't connect, and you're like, should I be doing this? Or you're grinding your business, your company, and the campaign goes terribly, doesn't work, you question. So this is totally normal. I'm mainly making this video so that people see that this just happens to me. I believe it happens to everyone. I believe it probably happens to great athletes on days where they just don't have it and they show up and they lose 4 matches in a row. Or I don't know what happened to Tiger Woods mentally when he wasn't golfing well for a couple of years, but like maybe he was wondering, am I still ever going to golf well again? Like, I just believe that everyone experiences that because everyone's human. And these are just normal emotions to experience. Like, nobody is immune to the game of life in that way. But I guess what the takeaway is, the underlying thing is that I always knew that, and this is a fine line, especially in an industry like poker, which involves gambling, to be perseverant or just stubborn and delusional, right? So it's like, how do you draw that line between whether you're just like, there's merit in your perseverance and keep trying and you get up the next day and you're like, I'm going to come back and crush, versus delusions of grandeur and playing a game or staying in a job or continuing a business where it's clear that there's a lack of self-awareness where you're just not going to make it. And that's something that's above the pay grade of this video. Like, I can't give someone that perspective unless I know them and what is my opinion. I might have the perspective in poker, but that's something where I think self-awareness is just so important to understand what your strengths are and what is your calling. What do you really want to do? If you're questioning poker or questioning your job or questioning your business because you have a setback, maybe that's a sign of weakness. Maybe it's just like you just are scared to fail. You're scared of what other people think. You don't want to deal with the pain. Just lack that perseverance. And that's a problem that, perseverance and going all in and being focused and not giving it whatever about what anyone else thinks requires that in order to succeed, if that's the problem. But if the problem is that you're just genuinely terrible at poker, or poker's not actually what you want to do and it's what you think you want to do, but it's really not what you deeply want to do, but you're kind of attracted to it for the wrong reasons, or maybe you just want to be in this business because you like the job title that you have, but that you actually don't like what you're doing, and like you're kind of egoically connected to the superficiality of the job, and then you're keeping on pursuing it, and then that's doing it for the wrong reasons. It's really important to be self-aware and understand your motivations, like why you're doing what you're doing and what is it that you want to do, and listen to the voice in your head and make that voice louder than the collection of everyone else's voices. So what I mean by that is you have to get to a place where your own truth about what you want and what you believe is right speaks louder to you than the opinions or the collective noise of everyone else in society. You can listen to advice from others, but when it comes to knowing what is the right decision to make and whether or not you should be continuing pursuing something, you have to listen to that inner voice. And that's what I did. I knew for me that on the surface, if I listened to the advice of others, said, hey, I built up 30K playing poker, I just lost it all in a weekend or a week or whatever it was, to be like, you're crazy, you're an addicted gambler, you should quit. That's the obvious thing to say to that person. But I knew that that wasn't me. I knew deep down that I could do this. I knew that playing poker was right. I knew that I should pursue this game. And so I didn't listen. Like, I didn't even tell people. I just internalized it. I mean, I told like some of the people that I was close with, but I found a support group of people, and I knew internally that like this was the right thing to do. And so I've had that throughout my life in different scenarios where some things I failed at where I'm like, this is not the right thing to do. For example, I wanted to learn piano and I was persevering and I knew I could have kept going and wanting to do it and persevered and just pushed myself and eventually learned it. But I also knew that it actually wasn't something I wanted as bad as I thought I did, at least at that point in my life. And so I had that awareness to understand, okay, my lack of effort right now is not because I'm lazy, but it's because this actually isn't something that I enjoy as much as I thought. The same is true about getting a motorcycle. I thought it would be so cool. So I got my license, I got a motorcycle, and I drove it around Italy when I lived there. And I realized I don't really like driving a motorcycle. And so it wasn't that I gave up something, being in a motorcycle club or whatever, because I was lazy. I just realized this wasn't what I wanted. And so there's 2 great quotes that come to mind. One is from Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavs, legend, who says, follow your effort. It's a great quote that I've thought about. It's like, where is your effort taking you? If you're not trying harder at something like poker or what it is that you want, it might just be because you don't actually want it bad enough. Which leads me to my second quote from Randy Pausch in his famous Last Lecture, which is absolute must-watch piece of content when you have a free hour. It is truly inspiring. He says, brick walls are not there to keep us out, but they're there to test how bad we really want it. And so I viewed all of these things that happened. They didn't happen to me. I viewed them as maybe happening for me. Like that downswing, that $1 million downswing was a brick wall. Going broke in college was a brick wall. And it was there to challenge me, to teach me if poker was really what I wanted to go all in on with my life, or at that time of my life, or if it was something I didn't want as bad as I thought. And when I practiced piano, and I realized I had to actually spend an hour a day and like take lessons, which I was doing in Italy, and I had to go through it and like grind it all out, I was realizing like, I don't want to push through this brick wall. So I just turned around and walked away. And in poker, I pushed through. And that's really what made the difference. I'd love to hear your thoughts in a comment. Subscribe to my channel. More awesome content's coming. Thank you for your time and attention. I know this was a long one. This was heartfelt. I really wanted to get this out. And I look forward to your comments. See you soon.